Everybody's doing well. I know it's kind of gross outside today, but hope you guys are still having some good days. And I've checked in with a lot of you and heard that you got your packets in, so that's good. Hopefully, you're able to get some of your work done today. Looks like we have Abby and Keller, Addison, Kamari, Isabella. So we'll wait just there's 11 and 12 at least. I might wait a little longer today if that works with everybody. We'll see how it's going first. Hi, Maite. Hi, Addison. I feel we'll have a couple more people jump on. All right. Chapter 11. Fifth grade started a few weeks ago, and a couple of cool things have happened. Well, I didn't get a gadget that makes Garfield like speech bubbles over my head, but I did get an electric wheelchair, and our school began something called inclusion classes. I thought that was funny. I've never been included in anything, but these classes are supposed to give kids like me a chance to interact with what everybody else calls normal students. What's normal? Duh. Comparing my new chair to my old one is like comparing a Mercedes to a skateboard. The wheels are almost like car tires, which makes the ride smooth and easy, like riding on pillows. I can't go very fast, but I can propel myself down the hall with just a little lever on the handrail. Or if I flip the switch to manual, if necessary. When Freddie first saw it, he shouted, "Woo woo!" like I just won the Indy 500. Hey, Speedway kids, we made it in the book. It's cool. Melee goes zoom zoom now. Want a race? He spun his own chair in excited circles around me. I'm sure he could beat me, even at the subsonic speeds our chairs are set to. My electric chair is a lot heavier than my manual chair, and it's almost impossible for Mom and Dad to lift the chair. When you decide to switch to a rocket ship for transportation, Dad joked, rubbing his back, you're going to need to hire Superman to get it in the car. I grinned, but I know he saw the things in my eyes. So we bought a set of portable wheelchair ramps that fold and fit in the back of our SUV. With those, he can roll the new chair into the back of our car and have back muscles left over. For me, it was all about the freedom. Now I don't have to wait for somebody to move me across the room. I can just go there. Nice. So when they decided to start mainstreaming us into the regular classes, the electric chair was really helpful. Our fifth grade teacher in room H5 reminds me of a television grandmother. Miss Shannon is pudgy, wears lavender body lotion every single day, and I think she must be from the South because she talks with a real strong drawl. Somehow it makes everything she says seem more interesting. She told us on the first day, I'm gonna bust a gut making sure y'all can get out of school this year, you hear? And learn and grow. I believe every one of y'all has potential all stuffed inside, and together we're gonna make sure some of y'all have that stuff shine. I liked her. She brought in stacks of new books to read to us, as well as games and music and videos. Unlike Mrs. Billups, Mrs. Shannon must have read all of our records because she dusted off the headphones and even brought in more books on tape for me. Y'all ready for music class? She asked us one morning. Let's get this inclusion stuff going. I jerked with excitement. As the aides helped us down the hall to the music room, I wondered if I'd get to sit next to a regular kid. What if I stupid? What if Willie yodeled or Carl farted? Maria was likely to blurt out something crazy. Would this be our only chance? What if we messed this up? I could barely contain myself. We were going to be in a regular classroom. The music teacher, Mrs. Lovelace, had been the first to volunteer to open up her class. The music room was huge, almost twice as large as our classroom. My hands got sweaty. The kids in there were mostly fifth graders too. They'd probably be surprised to know that I knew all of their names. I've watched them on the playground at lunch and at recess for years. My classmates sit under a tree and catch a breeze while they play kickball or tag, so I know who they are and how they work. I doubted if they knew any of us by name, though. Well, the whole thing was almost a disaster. Willie, probably upset and scared about being in a new room, started yelping at the top of his lungs. Jill began to cry. She held tightly to the hand grips of her walker and refused to move past the doorway. I wanted to disappear. All of the normal children in the music class, I guess it was about 30 of them, turned to stare. Some of them laughed, others but one girl crossed her arms across her chest and then scowled at her classmates who were acting up. Two girls, Molly and Claire, everyone knew them because they were mean to almost everybody on the playground, mimicked Willie. They made sure they stayed just out of the teacher's line of sight, but I saw it, and so did Willie. Hey, Claire, Molly said, twisting her arms above her head and bending her body so it looked crooked. Look at me, I'm a retard. She laughed so hard, she snorted snot. Claire cracked up as well, then spit dribble out of her mouth. She said, crossing her arms and pretending to slip out of her chair. Miss Lovelace finally noticed them because she said sternly, Stand up, please, Claire. I didn't do anything, Claire replied. You stand up as well, Molly, Miss Lovelace added. We were just laughing, Molly said defensively, but she stood up next to Claire. Miss Work, use them, Miss Lovelace instructed. Make us stand the whole class, Claire moaned. The Board of Education requires that I teach you music. There's nothing in the rule book that requires you to sit while I do it. Now stand there and be quiet, or I'll send you to the office for showing disrespect to our guest. They stood in the middle of the third row of chairs where everyone else was seated comfortably. They stood. This teacher is awesome. After that, things went more smoothly. Jill, who had continued to cry, had been taken back to our room by one of the aides. The rest of us sat quietly in the back of the room. Miss Lovelace began class once more. I think we need a moment to gather ourselves, children. She sat down at her piano and began to play Moon River. And then she switched to the theme song for one of those new vampire movies. Oh yeah, she knew what we liked. When I started seeing colors, I knew she was good. Forest green, lime green, emerald. I glanced over at Gloria. Instead of held up like she usually did, her arms were outstretched like she was trying to catch the music and bring it to her. Her face was almost glowing. She began to sway with the music. Then Miss Lovelace completely changed tempo and played the opening notes to Take Me Out to the Ball Game. He clapped his hands wildly. Finally, the teacher started to play Bugle Boy. Dad would have loved it. Kids started to shimmy in their seats. Maria got up and started dancing. She clapped loudly, never quite to a rhythm that was all on her own. Miss Lovelace paused. Music is powerful, my young friends, she said. It can connect us to memories. It can influence our mood and our responses to problems we might face. She cut her eyes at Claire and Molly, who still stood in the empty places where their chairs would have been. I wanted to tell Miss Lovelace I liked music too. I wanted to know if she ever heard the song Elveria, or if she would teach us how to make our own music. I tried to raise my hand, but she didn't notice me. It must have looked like just another one of the random movements that kids like me seem to make. But I had the feeling that Miss Lovelace was someone who'd take the time to figure me out. The teacher went on, Before I continue with the lesson, let's make this real inclusion experience. Friends from room H5 sit with the rest of us instead of being stuck in the back. Freddie heard that and took his chance. He put his chair into gear and zoomed to the front of the big room and shouted, I'm Freddie, I like music, I go fast. The class laughed. I could tell the difference between people making fun of us and people being nice to us. Freddie could too, so he joined them in laughter. Miss Lovelace looked momentarily startled, then went over to Freddie, shook his hand, and welcomed him to the class. She sat him right there in front, next to a boy named Rodney. Rodney gave Freddie a high five, and the two of them grinned at each other. Okay, I have to admit, I was jealous. Miss Lovelace asked an aide to bring Gloria down front close to the piano. A girl named Elizabeth glanced at Gloria nervously, but she didn't move away when Gloria was wheeled next to her. Elizabeth's best friend is a girl named Jessica. At recess, they sit together near the fence and share granola bars. I've always wondered what they whisper about. I also noticed that everything Elizabeth does, Jessica tries to outdo. Like, if Elizabeth beats her running to the fence, Jessica insists they run again so she can win too. Or if Elizabeth gets a new book bag, Jessica will have to have a new one the next day. So when Elizabeth started talking to Gloria, who looked terrified, Jessica raised her hand and asked if one of the H5 kids could sit next to her too. Maria might have had trouble figuring out some stuff, but she's a real friendly person. I want to sit by the blue shirt girl. I want to sit by the blue shirt girl, she demanded. She stomped down to Jessica's seat and sat down next to her. Then she jumped up and gave Jessica a hug. Then a hug to the kid sitting closest to Jessica. One kid stood up when she touched him, but I was surprised that most of them let her hug them. Molly and Claire, since they were standing, had no choice. Oh, yuck, Claire whispered. Cooties, Molly whispered back. Miss Lovelace raised an eyebrow. Then cleared her throat. Seems like you two like to stand. You'll continue to do so for the rest of the week. Aw, man, that stinks, I heard Claire say. Molly had sense enough to say nothing. Maria didn't notice. She even kissed Claire on the cheek. That was funny. Willie ended up next to a large, friendly boy named Connor. Ashley and Carl were absent that day, so they let me sitting in the back of the classroom by myself. The room got real quiet. I suddenly felt cold, like the air conditioning had been cranked up real high. I got goosebumps. The teacher looked around the room, expectation on her face, I guess hoping that somebody would volunteer to take me. At the moment, I would have given anything to be back in our bluebird room instead of sitting there with the 30 kids staring at me. Finally, a girl got up out of her seat and walked over to my chair. She squatted down and looked me directly in the face. Then she smiled. It was a girl with long hair who had frowned at her friends for laughing. I'm Rose, she said, her voice soft. I smiled back and I tried really hard not to kick or grunt or make noise that would scare her away. I held my breath and thought about calm, quiet things like ocean waves. It worked. I inhaled deeply and slowly and pointed on my board to thank you. Rose seemed to understand. I showed her how I could power my own chair and roll to where she'd been sitting. We sat together for the rest of the class, and I didn't do a single embarrassing thing. It ended way too soon. But ever since every Wednesday, our little class of outcasts gets to join Miss Lovelace music class. It was awesome. Jill, Ashley, and Carl eventually became part of the group. Each one of us had been assigned a buddy to sit next to and interact with. Once they met her, all the girls rushed to be Ashley's buddy. I think it's like playing with a pretty little doll for them, but Ashley seems to like the attention. Claire and Molly eventually got their chairs returned, but they haven't chosen to be buddies for anyone yet. That's fine with me. Elizabeth and Jessica have stuck with Gloria and Maria. Jill sits continually next to a girl named Aster Chang. Rodney actually comes over at recess and talks to Freddie. Sometimes he pushes Freddie really fast in his chair. Freddie loves that. And I get to sit with Rose every single Wednesday. On Tuesday, I can hardly sleep because I'm so excited. I make my mother pick out my nicest clothes on Wednesday morning, cool outfits like the other kids wear. I screech at her until she gets the right combination. I make sure she brushes my teeth so my breath won't stink. I think about Rose all the time. I worry that she'll change her mind and not like me. But Rose talks to me like I understand, and she tries to figure out what I'm saying as well. One day I pointed to new and shoes and nice on my communication board, then down at her feet to let her know that I had noticed she got new sneakers and that I liked them. At first, she seemed surprised that I could do this, especially since it sometimes takes me a long time to make my thoughts and make sense using my board. One day, I pointed to music and bad and stinky. Then I started laughing. Rose didn't get it at first, so I pointed to the words again, then pointed to Miss Lovelace, who was playing some kind of jazz music on the CD player. I'm like Mom, not a big jazz fan. It confuses me because it doesn't have a tune. Rose finally figured out and said, "Oh, you don't like jazz? Me either." We both laughed so hard. Miss Lovelace had to put her finger to her lips to tell us to hush. Never in my life have I had a teacher tell me to be quiet talking to somebody in class. It was the best feeling in the world. I felt like the rest of the kids. Rose tells me secrets sometimes. I know she bites her fingernails and she hates milk. She goes to church every Sunday but falls asleep until it's over. Me too. She has a younger sister just like I do. She even likes country music. Sometimes she tells me about trips to the mall with her friends. It would be so tight to be able to do that. Okay, I'm going to stop there before I start chapter 12. Just to remind you of what the question that we're thinking about is. The question was, in 5th grade, Melody starts to be included with other students. How does this change how Melody feels about school? What are some positive and negative results of being included? So we should be able to start thinking about some of those and what our answer will be after reading that chapter, okay? All right, chapter 12. By the end of October, the inclusion program had expanded. Maria and Jill have been added to art and gym classes, and Freddie and Willie go to science. Me, it's the first time I've ever gotten to change classes for different subjects in my life. Now when the bell rings, instead of wondering of what's happening out there in the halls, I'm out there too. It's awesome. I plow through the crowds in my electric chair like a power mower in the thick grass. Sometimes kids wave or say, "What's up?" Every once in a while, someone will walk past me with the next class. Cool. But inclusion doesn't mean I'm included in everything. I usually sit in the back of the room going crazy because I know answers to things that I can't tell everybody. What's the definition of the word dignity? One of my teachers asked a few days ago. Of course I knew. I raised my hand, but the teacher didn't notice the small movement I'm able to make. And even if she were to call on me, what then? I can't very well yell out the answers. It's really frustrating. During my parent conferences earlier this month, my parents came to meet Mrs. Shannon and the other teacher. Leaving me on my own in the corner somewhere, Mrs. Shannon pulled me into the circle of teachers who are involved in an inclusion program. She is so great. She patted me on she patted the arm of my chair and smiled. This child's got some serious smarts. She's going to be our star in this program. I did my usual screeching and kicking. I would have kissed her if I could, but that would have been pretty sloppy, I guess. Well, it's about time somebody recognizes what we've always known, my dad told Miss Shannon. We really appreciate the opportunity to let her know what she can do. Mom was especially pleased to find out that I've been assigned a mobility assistant, an aide of my own. Finally, Mom said, relief in her voice. We've been asking for this for years. Budget bust and paperwork, a system that runs on grits instead of good sense. I'm so sorry, Miss Shannon replied, shaking her head. I'm trying to get all the students in H5 the services they need. I smacked in for Melody way up on top of my list, so we'll see how it goes. I'm expecting a wonderful school year. So cool, I tapped on my board. An aide. Wow. This person's job would be to take me to classes, sit with me, and help me participate. I wondered what she looked like. Or maybe I'd get a guy. Would he be young and cute or old and grumpy? The very next day, my new aide was at school before I was, chatting with Mrs. Shannon in room H5 as we kids were wheeled in. She came right over to me and took my hand. Hi, Melody. I'm glad to meet you. My name is Catherine. I go to the university, and I'm going to be your deals and wheels every day. She talked to me like I was just like any other student, not a kid in a wheelchair. I tried not to kick, but it was hard to hold in the excitement. Cute t-shirt, she said as she checked out my Tweety bird on the front of the new lavender top Mom had bought for me. I pointed to thanks on my board. What's your favorite color? She asked then. I pointed to purple, but then quickly slid my thumb over to green. I grinned at her. You're quick, Melody. I could see we both like weird. We're going to get along just fine. Catherine was dressed in purple tennis shoes, green tights, a purple suede skirt, and the ugliest green sweater I'd ever seen. I used to tease her about her outfit, but I didn't want her to think I was mean. After all, I just met her. I searched all over my board for a way to jokingly make fun of her clothes, but I couldn't think of a way to do it, so I gave up. It was so hard to say stuff. So now Catherine, who helps me at lunch, so I don't. And Catherine, who reads off the answers I point on my board. She's added some more words and phrases to it, and she helped Miss Shannon order the books I need to read. She even makes sure the headphones don't fall off my ears. The regular fifth grade language arts teacher, Mrs. Gordon, is not much older than Catherine. She's almost explodes with energy and makes books seem like live action plays. She jumps up on the table. Sometimes she sings. She lets out the class act parts of the stories, and sometimes she even turns books into games. Vocabulary bingo, Miss Gordon announced one morning. Donuts to the winning team. As they played, my classmates broke their necks to get the right definition, screamed out answers, and groaned when they messed up. In just half an hour, every student in the room knew all 20 vocabulary words. Miss Gordon gave donuts to the losing team too, but the winners got the ones with the chocolate sprinkles. I knew all the definitions, but the other kids moved too fast for me. Chocolate would have been made a mess on my clothes anyways. One unusually warm day of the week, Miss Gordon brought in fans and spray bottles of water and let us eat popsicles in class. Orange ones, of course, in honor of Halloween, while she read poems about pumpkins and ghosts. Catherine held my popsicle for me with a paper towel under my chin. We didn't spill one drop. Miss Gordon does other cool things too, like when she decided our class would read the story of Anne Frank, she had the kids take turns squeezing into a small space she had built for under a table so they could understand how Anne might have felt. I couldn't do that, but I got the idea. And she assigned other great books this semester. I'm listening to Shiloh, The Giver, and there's one called Tuck Everlasting. The kid never gets to grow up. Staying a child forever is not as cool as many folks might think. Because of Miss B, I could actually read the books, but print is unusually very small, and it's hard for my eyes to stay on the right line. And nobody has figured out the best way for me to hold on to a book without falling on the floor a million times. So I usually choose the audiobook instead of the written version. I've even taken tests now. Catherine reads me the questions and I point to the answers on the sheets she places on my tray. I pass every single test, and she doesn't help me one single bit. I'd probably get 100% on each one, but some of the questions require long answers. I just can't explain with the words on my board. One time in spelling, Miss Gordon read the words out loud and I pointed to the letters on my board. Catherine wrote down what I pointed to and I could follow along with the test. Claire and Molly, who were always watching me, it feels like, began to complain. It's not fair, Claire cried, waving her hand to get Miss Gordon's attention. Catherine cheats for her, Molly added. What is with these two? It's like they're jealous of me or something, and that's just plain crazy. At the same time, I realized that they actually thought I had it easier. That sure was a first. Last Monday morning, Miss Gordon told the class, as some of you know, because I do this every year, our long-range fifth grade project this year is our biography unit. We will read the biographies of famous people, do a report on a famous person of your choosing, and each of you will write your own autobiography. Well, it's got to be short. What can you do in 11 years? Connor, the big kid, shouted out. Everybody laughed. In your case, Connor, Miss Gordon replied, I'm sure you'll think of way too much. Can I do my report on the guy who invented hamburgers? Connor asked to more laughter. I doubt if we know who made the first burger, but you can do your report on the who founded McDonald's. He's got rich off hamburgers and fries. Awesome. My kind of dude, Connor said. Rose raised her hand. I love the fact that she's in all my inclusion classes. Miss Gordon, when is all this due? Rose is the type of student who takes all kinds of bright red spiral planner and never misses a homework assignment. Relax, Rose. We've got to the end of May, and I'll walk you through each segment, one step at a time. Tomorrow we'll talk about how to write your memories. Rose was satisfied, but I noticed she scribbled almost a whole page in her notebook. I'd give anything to do that, but working on stuff the teachers in regular classes assign is just plain awesome. History class is even better than language arts class. Even though the teacher, a man named Mr. Deming, has none of Miss Gordon's spark. Balding and pudgy, he's been teaching at the school for over 20 years, and the kids say he's never been absent, not even once. Clearly, he loves what he does. His car is always in the parking lot when our bus rolls in, and always there for the day. He dresses like a TV preacher, in three-piece suits with vests most days. I've never seen him without a crisp white shirt and a colorful tie. I wonder if his wife picks them out. Some of them are really sharp. Mr. D loves history. He can quote facts and dates and wars and generals like somebody on a game show. I bet he could win Jeopardy. The other students don't seem to like Mr. Deming much. They call him Dimwit Deming behind his. I think that's sort of mean because Mr. D is really smart. Smart enough to run the quiz team. When Mr. Deming got to American presidents in class, I rocked. He gave the students a list of presidents and all their vice presidents and told us where they would be on it and told us there would be a test in a week. Catherine read the names to me several times. I've never even heard of some of these men, she admitted to me as we went over the first time. Hannibal Hamlin was Abraham Lincoln's vice president. Who knew? I memorized them all. When Mr. Deming gave the test, all I had to do was point to the right answers. He checked to make sure that Catherine wasn't helping me. I even finished before some of the others. While Mr. D was returning the test papers, he gave the class a few minutes of free time to sharpen pencils or stretch and talk. I was surprised to see Rose walking towards my desk. How'd you do on the test, Melody? She asked. I only got a 75. She looked disappointed. I got an 80, but I was so excited that she'd come over to me that I got all mixed up, so I pointed to 58 on my board. She touched my arm, her eyes full of sympathy. Oh, don't worry, she said. You'll do better next time. And she did this right in front of Molly and Claire and the rest of the class. There's no way I was going to tell her what I really got on the test. I tried to think of something to say so she'd stay longer. Pretty and shirt was all I could come up with using my lame board. I sure could use a word choice that said cool outfit, but somehow Miss B had overlooked that one. But Rose beamed. You look nice today, too. I really didn't. I had on faded blue sweatshirt and matching sweatpants. Mom hardly got me anything else these days, but I hate sweatsuits. If I could choose, I'd wear blue jeans with sparkly decals, a blouse with decorated buttons, and a vest. But I had no way to tell Rose that, so I just pointed to thank you. Incredibly, she touched my arm one more time, then went back to her seat and over to her friends. Then the bell rang, class was over, and I had to go back to H5. No more inclusion, nor more Rose, and 4 more hours of school left. Even Catherine left, and she had afternoon classes at the university and hurried to get there on time. Miss Shannon was out sick that day, so I sat quietly with Ashley and Maria and Carl and Lily while we watched The Lion King again. I've seen it a million times. I can quote it. Then the substitute teacher gave us a math lesson. Addition. Again. When am I ever going to get to long division? I wondered what Rose was doing. It was a very long afternoon. Okay. So I think I'm going to do, this is kind of a shorter chapter, I think. So I'm going to go ahead and read chapter 13 and then we'll stop. Okay. Chapter 13. Penny, no! Miss V calls out. Dragging Doodle behind her, Benny had scooted out of Miss V's front door and is halfway down the ramp from her porch, shouting, "Bye-bye!" from under her green baseball cap. Butterscotch, at home in our backyard, would be having a doggy fit if she could see Penny trying to bolt. It's one of those early November days that an artist would love. Red bronze leaves, bright gold sunlight, leftover summer. I don't blame Penny for trying to bolt. Miss V scoops her up and brings her back to the house. "Go and work," Penny pouts. "Not today, honey buns," Miss V says firmly as she locks the front door. Penny loves wearing hats and playing dress up. Mom rarely buys fancy church lady hats for herself, but for Penny, she'll sometimes pick out a crazy looking straw hat with bows and ribbons and bring it home. At home, Penny spends a crazy amount of time in front of the hall mirror with a couple of Mom's plastic necklaces hanging down almost to her shoes, a purse on each arm and a hat tilted sideways on her head. "Gotta go to work," she'll say, with one hand on her hip. "Who has she ever seen dressed like that going to work?" Mom asks, and we all crack up. "She's only 2. I'm not going to be able to afford the kid when she's old enough to go shopping on her own," Dad always says. He snaps every cute pose and she makes with his cell phone camera. When Miss V sets Penny back down, Penny pokes her lips out, throws Doodle on the floor, and wraps both her arms around her chest. I laugh. I wish I had enough coordination to have attitude. "Here, Penny, why don't you just sit down and draw me a picture instead?" Miss Benny says, whipping out a box of crayons. Attitude forgotten, Penny grabs a handful and promptly begins to scribble all over the coloring book as well as Miss V's table. I wish I could use crayons. I draw a rose with a velvety bloom and green stem and yellow-green leaves coming from it. I can see it so clearly in my mind, but of course, when I put a pencil or crayon in my stupid, tight little fingers, all I can manage are squiggly lines. Nothing that looks even close to a rose. I wanted to draw in for Rose. She has a rose designs on her notebooks and bags. I don't know where her mother finds such cool stuff. Rose's name really fits her. She's pretty and delicate and nice to be around. She has thorns like real roses do. If she has thorns like real roses do, I've never noticed. While Penny is busy with her crayons, Miss V checks her mail. She opens several envelopes and gasps with surprise. "Guess what, girls?" she explains. "I've won a contest." I look at her with interest. Penny continues to scribble, ignoring both of us. "I've entered an essay contest in the bookstore at the mall," she explains to me. "The topic was why fish are important in our world." I point to food on my board and smirk. "No, silly," she reaches over and tickles me. "I wrote something about oceans and the balance of nature. I don't honestly remember what I said, but I won first prize, a trip for 6 to the new downtown aquarium, all expenses paid. Wonderful. I've seen the commercials on television for the aquarium. It's supposed to have sharks and turtles and penguins and a million other sea animals." "Go?" I ask, pointing on my board. "Well, besides me, I don't know who else to take," she says, scratching her head and grinning. I kick my foot straps loose. Me, I want to scream. Instead, I point to myself. Who could I take?" Miss V teases, looking around the kitchen. I can tell she's trying hard not to laugh. Me, I jab. "Well, of course I'll take you, Mellow Yellow," Miss V says, smiling. "Just think of all the new words we'll gather. I'm going to write down the names of every single fish for you to learn." I said, pretending upset. "So if I take you and Penny, your mom and dad, and me, that's 5. I wonder who else we could take." She scrunches up her face, thinking. I know immediately. Rose could go with us. I spell out her name. Rose. And again, Rose. Then I hit please. Your friend Rose from school? I buck and kick with excitement. "I think that's a great idea, Melody. I'll ask your parents and hers. If she's willing, we'll have a wonderful day." I can't stop kicking my feet. It takes several weeks before both Mom and Dad are off work on a Saturday, but Thanksgiving weekend ends up working out for everybody. I have trouble sleeping the night before. Rose's parents seem really nice from what I could tell from listening to Mom's end of the conversation. I couldn't believe Rose wanted to come. She wanted to come with me. The kid in the chair. At school, Rose whispered with me about the trip, just like I'd seen other girls do when they have secrets. I felt like a real girl. Now that the Saturday is finally here, we all pile into our SUV early in the morning. Even though the weather has turned pretty chilly, I made sure Mom put a nice outfit on me, cute jeans and no sweats. Rose hasn't said anything about what I'm wearing, but she keeps cooing over Penny. "Your sister is adorable, Melody," Rose says. I smile and nod. Penny reaches out her chubby little hands and claps. "Wozie," she says. "I think she said my name," Rose exclaims. "Your sister is not only cute, she's a genius." As we drive, Rose chatters with my parents and Miss V like she's known them all her life. I watch it silently, thinking this has to be the best day of my life. When we get to the aquarium, Dad unloads my chair and eases me into it, while Mom gets Penny's stroller out and straps her in. Rose pushes Penny as Mom pushes me so we can be side by side. The place is crowded, I guess because it's a holiday weekend. Nobody pays any attention to me, which is perfect. I can almost forget who I am. Inside, fish tanks go from floor to ceiling. I think of Ollie. He might have been happy here. In one tank, sharks swim overhead, just like we're actually looking up from the ocean floor. Okay, so Ollie might not have been so happy in that tank. I've never seen so many fish. From all over the world, it seems. Fish with spikes and spots. Fish with markings so beautiful. They look painted. Penny slaps the glass wherever a fish comes close. Fishies! More fishies! Miss V, as promised, writes down names of species and takes pictures so I can remember when we get back home. Mom and Dad whisper together like teenagers. I've never seen them so relaxed. We stop in front of every tank. I love the jellyfish, which remind me of streams of shiny cloth, and the lionfish, which really look a little like swimming lions. At the seahorse tank, Rose observes that their heads point backwards. She seems to be having a great time. Then from around the corner come two people I just want to run into, Molly and Claire. They are there with the Girl Scout troop. They are fake bumping into each other, not paying much attention to their group leader, who is telling them about the percentage of salt found in ocean water. Molly and Claire dressed exactly alike in jeans, long-sleeve t-shirts, and scout vest. Look at Rose with a surprise. Hey, Rose, you here with your mom? Claire asks. No, Rose says evasively, walking away from us and toward them. Your dad? Molly says, looking at me like I smell bad, and she's acting like my parents are invisible. I'm here with Melody and her family, Rose mumbles. On purpose? Claire shrieks. Both she and Molly start laughing out loud. It's not so bad, Rose says quietly, but I heard her. Mom starts to say something to the girls, but Dad takes her arm. They're children, he tells her. Let them work it out themselves. Mom has those daggers in her eyes, the sharp points she shoots at people who say dumb things about me, but she stays quiet. Her fists are balled. Miss V, however, isn't going to let anybody stop her. From almost 6 foot height, she towers over Molly and Claire. You! Girl with braces on her teeth. Claire looks up to her, stunned. Yes, ma'am, Claire has a sense enough to say. Why do you think your parents spent good money to get you braces? Huh? Claire looks confused. Molly has quietly disappeared into her scout troop. Your teeth were imperfect, so your parents got you braces. One day you'll thank them when you get a date for the prom, Miss V roars. Then the whole scout troop, plus a few other visitors to the aquarium, stop to listen to her. What do teeth have to do with anything? Claire asked, looking around nervously. Some people get braces on their teeth. Some get braces on their legs. For others, braces won't work, so they need wheelchairs and walkers and such. You're a lucky girl that you only had messed up teeth. Remember that. Yes, ma'am, Claire says again, then scurries off to join her friends. Rose walks back with us, a little embarrassed, I think. Claire can be clueless, she whispers to me. Think. After a few more tanks, Penny gets tired and starts to whine, so we leave the aquarium before we can even get to see the penguins. We take Rose home, and she thanks us properly and says she had a real good time. But did she? All right, we're going to stop there. We got through a lot today. So, thinking about the question again, we already have some answers coming in, which is good. In 5th grade, Melody starts to be included with other students. How does this change how Melody feels about school? And what are some positive results of being included and negative results? So Keller says, when Rose included her, she felt good. When Rose and Melody were laughing, the teacher told them to be quiet. She felt like a normal kid. So that was kind of a positive that came. She said a bad thing is that Molly and Claire were laughing and being mean and disrespectful. Abby says it changes how she feels in school because at the beginning of 5th grade, her classmates didn't include her. But now Rose wants to be Melody's friend. Rose include Melody in a game at recess. Good. So she starts to feel like she's making friends. So school becomes a more positive thing for her. Can you guys think of anything else? I really like Miss B too. She seems to know Melody well and stick up for her, and I like that. Can you guys think of anything else about how her school experience has get off here in a few minutes? I know we've been on here a little bit longer this time. Yeah, Lauren made a good point. She said that's so sweet that Melody knew all the kids' names. Some people don't know how to react to kids that are different. If they take the time to get to know them, they can be friends like Rose, right? So the book talked about how Melody knew their names, but they likely didn't know Melody's name. And so it's important that we take time to get to know people because they're not that different than us and we can be good friends with them like Rose. Kamari says she feels a little nervous and she feels like it's a good thing to be a normal kid. Good. Sorry, I messed that up. She feel a little nervous and she feel to be a normal kid. Yeah, she's feeling like she gets to be a normal kid, which is good. All right. So tomorrow we'll have a Zoom meeting at 10 a.m. Let me check my calendar because I want to make sure I'm telling you the right time. Yes, it's at 10, not 9. Okay. They've been at 9 a.m. on Thursday, but we're going to make it at 10 tomorrow, push it back a little bit. And then Friday morning at 10 a.m., we'll do our last read aloud for the week. Okay. So it's good to see you guys. Kind of. I can't see you, but you know what I mean. It's good to see you. I'm glad you jumped on here. I hope you're still enjoying the book. I love seeing so many kids jump on here. So I hope you have a great rest of your day. Get your work done, but make sure you have time to spend time with your family and do some things that you enjoy today. Love you guys. Bye.